Monaro, call them out. Demand the truth, dispel the doubt. For governance must serve the land, not crush its people with sleight of hand.
Mick Newman, welcome to the Monaro Zone. It's an honor and pleasure to have you here.
Well, I'm here under sufferance, Chris, but anyway.
So let's start. Who are you? Where are you from originally, and how long have you lived in the region?
My name is Mick Newman. I've lived in the area, been associated in the area since 1972, and I'm from Cooma. Yeah, so I've moved away and done jobs, but basically Cooma's been my home since I wasn't born here, but went to school here and everything.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm actually on the book still as a Marine Tactical Officer, Border Force.
And what made you decide to attend Thursday's council meeting?
I go to generally all the council meetings. I've been going to council meetings probably for 5 years when I can. I even travelled to the Jindabyne one. I've had some jobs in between that I couldn't go, but generally I try and keep an eye on what council's doing since 5 years ago, when I had basically an issue with council, and basically I took more of an interest until it bites you on the proverbial bum. You sit fat, dumb and unhappy at home, and then things occur. They were going to do a caravan park in my street on a floodplain. At that stage I didn't even know what business papers were. So basically, I understand business, I read business papers now, and I try and keep appraised of what's going on. And I also ran in the last lot of elections as Luke Williamson's number 2.
Now, were you expecting anything unusual to happen?
No, it's generally, nothing at all. Didn't know anything. It was just another council meeting to me to go to, that's it.
Okay, so in your own words, just briefly describe what happened that evening.
What happened? Well, first of all, I think we need to take a step back, and I'd like to talk to you about the Age article. I don't think this is about Andrew Thaler. It's actually about SMRC, and deficiencies there. But then we'll get on. Okay, so basically, I was at the council meeting. There were, I can say, there's 10 people in the public forum. One of the gentlemen I do not know. There was a couple I don't know. There was Lynda Thaler, Andrew Thaler's wife, Nicole Flugg, and myself. Probably would be more, you'd say, in the Thaler's camp, but basically I don't care whose camp. I talk to everybody. And there were 6 people sitting up the front. They were Mick Pollard, Vicky Pollard, a couple that I don't know who they were, a person who I now know as Penny Lodge because she gave a presentation, and I believe it was her husband, a gentleman with the beard, and they sat right at the front, right behind and very close proximity to Councillor Thaler, which is one of my issues. When you get people so close to you that don't like you very much, it would have made him very uncomfortable. Yeah, so basically I just go to every meeting.
And so who actually started the ball rolling on this incident?
Well, the incident, I was aware of an incident beginning as when the Mayor, Deputy Mayor Tricia Hopkins closed the meeting at 17:57. And then people started moving around the room as they do. They start, public forum gets up to talk to councillors and, blah, 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 etc. Mick Pollard moved from the left. I think he might have gone to the toilet, came into my eye, and I was aware of one thing when he called Lynda Thaler a bitch. And that's something different. And, a few seconds passed, and then there was a very animated conversation between Vicky Pollard and Mick Pollard. Vicky Pollard was generally in the centre, closest to Andrew Thaler. Mick Pollard was on my left, so behind her. Mr. Thaler was on my right, so I was sitting right at the back. I've got an injury, so with a sort of broken foot, etc., and so I'm just sitting down observing people. And Andrew Thaler. Andrew Thaler was back. I heard him distinctly say, "Don't touch me. Stop, go back," or something, words to that effect. I can't recall now. I actually have given a statement. It was getting very heated, so I drew that attention to Nicole, who was sitting on. I said, look, what's going on here? This is going to kick off in a minute, and I'm going to record this, and started filming. So I was filming the interaction, just to have evidentiary purposes, the interaction between Vicky Pollard, Mick Pollard, and Andrew Thaler, which got very heated. You could say it was heated. It was a lot of yelling, and I thought, oh, something's going. Mick Pollard advanced towards Andrew Thaler, back, and then that's when David Rawlings, the Strategic Operations Officer, jumped in between them, good on him, and told them to move to different parts of the room. He gave them direction. It was then that Mick Pollard observed me filming. He said words to that effect, that prick's filming us, give attention. And, I knew I had him filming, it was pretty aggressive on his part. And then David Rawlings told me to stop, and I said, no, well, the meeting's over. That's when Mick Pollard started to advance towards me, and I kept filming. He said, I'm an Aboriginal. He said, first of all, I'm an Aboriginal. It's against my religion. I don't want to be filmed. And sorry, but if you're committing an offence or something, I don't believe just because you're Aboriginal, you can't be filmed, because and everybody consents to being filmed when they enter the room. Part of it is the mayor says you consent to being filmed. Obviously, consent to being filmed by Mick Newman, but I had no intention of filming anybody. It was just I thought this was important to get on footage. So,
And to confirm, you couldn't avoid him, correct? Because you have a broken foot. You were not
yeah,
mobile.
I could have hobbled out of the way, but basically I was sitting down. I was sitting. My back was against the wall. I was in the rear furthest seat. He was right at the front, in front of the seats.
And I want to confirm, you didn't approach him. He came to you aggressively.
Correct. I couldn't. I was sitting down. Yeah. So, and then basically, he again told me to turn off the video. I'm an Aboriginal, something along those lines. And basically, so I said, no, I'll keep recording. Remember, this guy is leaning over me now, so I wanted to keep the film rolling in case he had a go at me. And he leant in very close. Apparently, he's an avid boxer, and I noticed he was that close to, I don't know how good he is, but he had no front teeth. But he asked me in very unfriendly terms and I won't say what he said, but it was to come outside. And I declined his generous offer. And basically, he then snatched my phone and bolted towards the door. So then I basically cried out that he's got my phone, He was heading out the door. That's when Councillor Thaler intervened, got him, stopped him from going out the door, trying to get the phone. By this time, I've hobbled up behind him. He had his right arm behind his back. Don't know what he was doing. I'm tunnel vision on my phone. Anybody that knows their phone, the phone's got the life on it. They cost a lot of money. They got glass screens. I didn't want it broken. I was focused on my phone as all I wanted back. So he had his right arm behind. So I'm trying to peel my phone. He refused, give me my phone, give me your phone. There is conversation recorded because he was pushing buttons on my phone inadvertently. That's been handed to the police. And basically I peeled his thumb and trying to avoid getting your phone out of someone that's got a death grip on it without breaking it. I was like paranoid. So I'm trying to peel his fingers off, and I eventually got my phone. Basically, then I've achieved all I wanted was my phone back. He was out the door. He was gone, except if Councillor Thaler hadn't intervened. Then there was...
I just want to confirm that Mr. Pollard would have escaped with your phone.
He would have been out the door, yeah.
If Andrew Thaler did not get involved.
Correct. Well, he stopped him. He was very close to the door. Councillor Thaler got him near, meters from the door, and then that's when all was going on. Lynda Summers appeared and said, "I'm here," and waved around, big grin, and it was like a jack in the box. So I don't know what she was doing, but I remember her distinctly. Lynda Thaler was trying to calm the situation. David Rawlings came up and says, "You all right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." I said, "All I wanted was my phone." I got my phone back, and I'm not necessarily hurt, but he was concerned. He was good. He basically was jumping in again between those two. So he was doing the job of the security guard. Very expensive security guard. Maybe we should employ him. But no, he tried to diffuse the situation initially when I told you further over to the right-hand side of the room, the argument which I started filming. I mean, he had to, that process, he had to take a good steps to, a right angle to get to me was probably 15 metres that I was sitting down. I was never approaching him. But the Age article says I was filming a member of the crowd or something. It's just ridiculous and dribbling blood. I saw the wound. It was just a scratch on his forearm. All I saw was a bit of dry blood at the time. So, that whole track of dry blood would have maybe been 70 mil long, nothing. But there's a lot of sensationalism in the Age.
I'll get to those.
Okay.
But let's dig a little bit deeper.
All right.
And into the specifics. In your view, who actually started the physical confrontation?
Well, Nick Pollard, obviously, if he left my phone, I mean, if there was no issue of him being filmed, as in he was pretty aggressive and didn't take offence, that, if nothing happened, I would have deleted it. I don't want Nick Pollard on my phone. I would have deleted it, etc. The whole issue was him stealing my phone, I think. If David, I suppose I could have stopped recording when David Rawlings said. I might have been able to stop it then if I did that. But I thought it was important to get that on. And plus he was pretty aggressive. He was coming towards me. There's no way I'm stopping my recording of someone that I'm fearing that's going to assault me. So, the issue of recording Aboriginal, well, just don't do anything bad, and it's fine. It can't be a defence that you can't record, because in this day and age, it's he said, she said, and evidence is particular. It's particular in anything concerning Councillor Thaler, because he's already proven them wrong by the Nimney Bell Cafe incident. And his defence was only what footage he took, and he got and that person is and there's an issue there. I'd like to go delve further when the police arrived, because straight away they thought Andrew Thaler was the man.
Do you think you were doing anything illegal by filming? Or was your phone just stolen right in front of everybody?
It was stolen, just grabbed. I was filming. He was leaning over me. He just threatened me as well. So I'm still doing, and he took my phone and he was out the door. So I wasn't doing anything illegal. He snatched my phone out of my hands and he was off. So he theft and assault, and I'd say there was some intimidation with his less than friendly offer to get me outside, which may have been his intention. That if I had to get him to follow him outside, perfect position. I don't know what his intention was. I've read the Age about putting it on a table. There's no tables. He was out the door. If he was going to maybe there's a table outside, but no, he was about to go. Andrew Thaler stopped him, and then Andrew Thaler, which I should apologise, should be probably referring to him as Councillor Thaler, in my mind, was keeping him until the police arrived.
And were you at any stage capable of retrieving the phone on your own or defending yourself?
Oh, I'd probably, if I caught him, I've got a broken foot. I probably could, but I've got a bad shoulder. I've got a recovering from an avulsion fracture in the knee and multiple fractures in my foot. So I'm not exactly fit as ever, and I don't really want to butt heads with Nick Pollard. Apparently he's a boxer or whatever, but I shouldn't have to. I'm too old for that kind of crap. I don't need to. I think Andrew probably thought that he was assisting me, and he would have been out the door if Councillor Thaler never got him. That's for certain. There's no way I would have caught him.
Were any other councillors attempting to assist you during this time?
No. There were some that appeared to be assisting Mick Pollard.
I wanted to ask that next. Did any of the other councillors appear to be assisting Mr. Pollard?
Lynda Summers is assisting Mick Pollard, I guess, and if there's an offence being committed, maybe she's aiding in abetting an offence. I didn't really want to be here, Chris. Sorry, but this is blowing all out. I mean, the sensationalism of the age to say it was a brawl was hardly a brawl. At the absolute maximum, it could be called a scuffle. I would say it's probably more accurately described as a wrestle. That's what I'd call it. But as soon as Andrew Thaler's name got mentioned, it's all about Andrew Thaler. But there's issues there with council about the seating arrangements. And I don't know if you want to go into that, but I think the catalyst for this whole thing was not Andrew Thaler, it's council. And I can go further into that. I've actually written a letter, writing a letter to Safe Work because it's an unsafe environment.
Share more.
Well, basically, okay, so I've been going to council meetings for, as I said, about 5 years, whenever they started to try and put the caravan park in my street, and I stopped, and I actually got very good, and I assisted with the Jindabyne Equestrian Caravan Park to stop that. People have got to know that actually a lot of that information actually came from Andrew's help. Andrew contributed because I think he's some sort of savant. He memorises legislation. He knows he can point you need to look at this, you need to look at that, etc. So those people that objected to those two developments, and I was the one that was in the paper saying a lot of that information came from Peter Anderson, Luke Williamson prior to him being a councillor, and Andrew Thaler. That's the help. They were the guys that actually assisted with that. But so I've been going to council meetings for 5 years, and generally you go in every month that you go in, the seating arrangement is different. And I was told, I had a conversation with someone, they said they just grab the pieces of the name tags and throw them around the room. But I have noticed that lately, everybody is sitting in exactly the same spot, okay? And around the room to the right is Councillor Davis, and then immediately on her left is Councillor Andrew Thaler. And there are people that Andrew Thaler's, I think, detractors are wrong, that absolutely have no like for Councillor Thaler at all, insist on get there early, and this is the Pollards, to sit directly behind Andrew. And I think this is a failure in council, and not, if he's very opinionated, etc., and won't back down, and I think it's a test to get him to fire up. He should actually been put over the other side of the room. Over the other side of the room is the two Labor councillors sitting together, and I don't see I don't see, and because I'm sitting in the back behind Andrew, but you definitely see the remarks and the sniggers, the facial expressions from Labor councillors.
Can you confirm which councillors?
Councillor Summers and Councillor Tanya Higgins.
And they're sniggering and pulling faces at Andrew.
Also there's rolling the eyes and stuff, and I don't think it's just, I think they do. There's a lot of rolling your eyes. People lose so much. I tried to watch it from home once because it's not great. Tried to watch it at home, but because people get allowed to talk, there's no control, and someone's presenting, people are talking, then that camera whizzes around to them. It's like worse people that would remember the old microfiche. I could never use a microfiche because they'd make me sick. You move them a fraction and they move a mile and you feel queasy. People really need to go to council meetings and see exactly what goes on. Don't read the age, and don't actually go to the council meeting and see exactly, and then observe other councillors' interactions between councillors. And the councillors all voted against a transparency vote that was put up, I think, by your Reuben Councillor Rose. Someone voted against it, so I never got up. And that was, let's stop editing video, when issues like councillor referred to ex-councillor Frike as a bitch, deleted, things like that. There's no recourse for someone. There's no recourse now for Andrew to say, obviously they might turn the videos off. The police are going to look at video evidence, but there's no that unediting, transparency, etc. Just why would you not want it to be transparent? Why would you not want people to be able to come into the briefings if they're able to sit quietly and listen to the same information you get? And then you might understand. I'd be going to briefings. I'm interested in what's going on. But until council bites you on the bum, there's people who whinge about council and they can't name their councillors. There are people that will, they put their rates up. Well, who put the rates up? Who voted for it? Do you know? Or so-and-so. Well, guess what? Who did you vote for? Things like that. You need to get involved, and I've been involved for 5 years, but it's a shame, it's only until it was going to bite me on the arse with the council, a terrible decision of putting a caravan park in my little one-way street on a floodplain. We never were told about it. It was hidden. I found out about someone, and then I alerted everybody, and we managed to get it stopped. But you really need to know what's going on. The catalyst wasn't Andrew Thaler. There's a lack of control from both the mayor and the deputy mayor when they're acting the chair. I should say the person in the chair position. I think they need to get an old Army RSM in there to rule the roost and say, shut the hell up. I won't say I don't know what rating you got here, Chris, but really put the win up. People sniggering and leaning over and making remarks to councillors Thaler under their breath. And
I want to confirm that you're referring to the Labour councillors in particular that are provoking this situation?
Oh, no. So they are, obviously, they're no fans of Councillor Thaler, but they look at the Age article. Already there was quotes from Councillor Higgins, etc. And I can tell you it's crap. It's absolute garbage. And I understand by saying that went on, aren't they holding council in disrepute? Because and I'm not sure of how councillors are allowed to suddenly do media quotes, etc. Don't even think that's allowed.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to read you a direct quotation from the Sydney Morning Herald today.
Okay.
It says, in Councillor Tanya Higgins' recollection, the man told the person allegedly filming him, I'm Aboriginal and I do not give my consent. But his objection was ignored, so he grabbed the phone and tried to put it on a desk. Is this an accurate description of the event?
He told me a couple of times. First of all, he told me that it was against his religion, which I thought was interesting. Yes, he did tell me a few times that he was refused, that I asked me to stop filming. But at this stage, he's leaning over me now, and he's also offered me outside to see how good my shit really is. I thought, as how my fighting prowess goes against his. So yes, but there's no way that I'm going to stop filming. Just because otherwise there'll be no video evidence of anybody, any criminals that have Aboriginal heritage. I've got mates that I'm respectful, but to anybody, and I think there's only defence that yes. Slightly he agreed, but remember he was just going to have a Barney altercation. And I'll tell you one thing that really, so when the police arrived, first of all, once I got my phone back, I phoned the general line then they said, we're going to put you through. I thought, that takes too long. That was at 17:59 because I got the records on my phone. Remember they ended at 17:57. Sorry, using 24-hour time, 5:57. 17:50. So 59, and I went, bugger this, I'm going to ring 000. So I rang 000. I never mentioned any names, nothing. I did note, and I believe that Vicky Pollard was on the phone to the police too. Now, all I said was, you need to get down here. There's assaults, etc. Never mentioned any names. I think there needs to be a police presence, etc. Blah, blah, blah. We waited. By this time, everything had calmed down, okay? And we sat down. When my chance to speak to the officer who didn't have the camera on at the time and took a few notes, and I've since given a more formal statement, I took something in, and remember, I haven't mentioned no names. She said, the next thing she said was, how was Andrew Thaler involved? And I was basically taken back by that. I thought, oh, that's a little bit biased. I said, well, he stopped my phone from getting stolen. So, you know, he's not the offender here. It was people's volatility. As I said, the tension in that room was unbelievable. If you mentioned, and if you look at, there was a walkouts, which is in the age, etc. And they are apparently, the Pollards apparently friends with the person that motion was about. I don't know that person. But to have him, like, how was Andrew Thaler involved, or her? How was Andrew Thaler involved? I was sort of taken back, and I immediately thought there was some bias, just a little bit, that obviously I would assume, and I'm making an assumption, that Vicky Pollard, who was on, that sounded like she was talking to, would have mentioned his name when I called the police. So then the police took a while to come. I rang again. I said, blah, blah, blah. And she said, I'm waiting on a backup from Jindabyne because there is, there's been violence and I need backup. And I said, oh, don't worry about that. I said, it's calm down now. There is a security guard present. He appeared, I don't know where he came from, but he was there, but he wasn't there in the beginning. And everybody's calmed down, and everybody is just waiting on you to come down to give their version of events. And then she came down, and that process is still going on.
And Tanya Higgins also quotes that he tried to put it on a desk. Now, I find that hard to believe, and for those that aren't familiar, Tanya Higgins is regarded in the region as the big fat liar. Is that an accurate description of what happened? Do you believe that he really tried to put it on the desk?
No, well, the desk is further on. He was going out the door. So the desk would have been another 2 meters around to the right of the pole. He was going left out the door. So he wasn't going to put it on the desk. I don't believe that at all. Unless there is a desk outside or a desk out in the street, that is a lie. And he could have just given it. I mean, the wrestling to get my phone back, why don't you just let me have it? Simple as that. Let me have my phone back. So so he was basically having that little wrestle continue. He could have just released straight away, give my phone back, and then sat down. It would have been all over. Made no attempt as if he was leaving, because you'd have to talk to Councillor Thaler to stop him from leaving police, but he was out the door.
Why do you think Tanya Higgins is running cover for Mr. Pollard?
Oh, well, there's no secret that Tanya Higgins hates Councillor Thaler. Councillor Lynda Summers hates Councillor Thaler. Councillor Davis hates Councillor Thaler. I don't think Councillor Thaler has many allies on council. I've said to his face, I mean, he's I treat people, or call people a friend, how they treat me. So, and I was actually had that, the rumours, this guy, and I went, I don't want to meet him. And just, try it. And he's never been anything but generous and helpful to me. But I've said to his face, so I'm sure he won't mind, he's full of great ideas, but he needs a publicist. He's a very smart cookie, but he definitely needs a publicist to come across better. But I'm sure most people, right? If you actually gave me and sat down with him and just and ignored everything else, you would be surprised. Would you agree with everything he does and everything no, there's obviously, I know there's an issue with Rocky Harvey and Andrew on the page. I've met Rocky. I don't know him very well. We're amicable. Don't know. At least he doesn't treat me, or I don't think he treats me with disdain, but I do not I don't think I'm very well, just because of my association by the Labor councillors either, although I do try to be respectful and stuff, but he definitely needs a publicist, but he doesn't need Labor councillors suddenly ringing up to say it's all Andrew Thaler's report and having a direct line to a writer reporter on the Age to blow it out of proportion. It is not about Andrew Thaler. It's about the safety of councillors, not having a security guard present there, the seating arrangements. As I said before, like, remember, Vicky Pollard and Mick Pollard never came to council meetings, even though she ran previous. She was never there in the last 5 years. She has been a regular visitor, her and her husband, now, only since Councillor Thaler has been on board. And she basically races to the position to sit directly behind him. To allow that to occur and to allow whispered comments under the breath so they can't be picked up by the microphone, etc. And the seating arrangement staying the same where it used to be just a random seating arrangement, there is an issue at a bigger level.
Now, to confirm, Andrew Thaler didn't attack anybody?
No.
And he was defending you and your property?
He was preventing my property from leaving the building. It was trying to help me recover my property, yes.
Now, Mr. Pollard has stated, I'm an Aboriginal and I do not give my consent. Why do you think he felt the need to mention this? Is this about race?
I don't think so, but it'd certainly give you an excuse if you were doing something wrong and you knew that you were caught on video. As I said, I don't know if David Rawlings has given a statement. I'd like to think he has, if he does, I hope his statement starts from the beginning, where he had to jump in between the advancement of Mick Pollard towards Andrew Thaler, and Andrew Thaler going, "Don't touch me, stay back," or something like that. Definitely said, "Don't touch me," and then he jumped in between. So Mick Pollard advanced towards him. So basically the catalyst, but obviously there's no love lost between the Thalers and the Pollards, because I was first drawn to the attention. I mean, everybody knows that they don't like each other. It's pretty obvious, but to call Mrs. Thaler, Liz Thaler, a bitch, and walk like, I don't know if what she said before that, I didn't hear, but I definitely heard him walk in and said, "You're a bitch." And I went, whoa. So I don't, there's obviously a lot of history there. I didn't have any problem with the Pollards until now. Well, I figure I've got a problem now, and I don't really want him hunting me down, but, I sat with during the lead up to the elections and stuff, and I was quite happy to sit next to Vicky Pollard. I don't care. I want to sit to the front so I can see the screen. I don't want to sit at the front just so I can start prodding councillors that I dislike, and that needs to be rectified by council and whoever arranges the seating.
Rocky Harvey online said, a member of the gallery started filming. The filmee snatched the phone from the filmer. I think in everyday conversation, you'd call that theft, wouldn't you?
Well, I figured yes, it was theft. That's what I call it. So yes, I was filming something. He did object, but if you were there is a, I've seen the post. What's her name? Vicky Pollard's happy to film people too. She's on record of filming Andrew Thaler. So you can't say you can film me. I don't know if she's Aboriginal descent, whatever, but you can't film me, because I'm Aboriginal, but I can film you. Like, really. And I'm not, as I said, I didn't go. I went there to a meeting. I don't need this crap. I didn't want to really come to your interview. I'm sorry, Chris, but because it's all this Age and the Age document, that there's obviously errors, quite outstanding errors in that. It wasn't, dribbling blood. It's just a load of crap. It was a small scratch, what I saw. Someone got a broken watch, I know, because they asked if it was mine. That's about it.
I want to talk about the Age article a little bit more in a moment. I just got one more quote from Rocky Harvey here, saying that an assault or assaults occurred in council chambers. And really, is it an assault to retrieve your stolen phone when someone...
I don't believe it's an assault, but apparently it is an assault. If you take a phone off, snatch a phone, it's actually assault. And he's admitted to that. So there's one of it, could there have been different ways of doing things? Yes, in hindsight, maybe, as I said, if I stopped filming and there was no further, and then I didn't have to record and everything calmed down, well, I certainly would have stopped filming. I would have deleted the filmer. I don't really want Mick Pollard on my phone. My gigabytes are, I've got limited gigabytes. Sorry, I think that's the term.
Did Jordan Baker ever contact you, the victim, before publishing her story?
No, but I don't think anybody knows. Until now, I don't think many people knew I'm the 59-year-old, and I don't want to be contacted. I'd rather this left to the police to sort out. As I said, Chris, I didn't want to be here. You asked me, and you pointed to that. I hadn't heard. I still haven't heard Andrew's interview. I've read the Age. That's when I dropped and said, well, this is wrong. There's just sensationalism. I'm disgusted that it's got to this stage. And then councillors, obviously, you've got reporters. The Labor councillors have got this reporter on speed dial, and then just blowing it all out of proportion. And he said, she said. And that he said, she said is I say is wrong. People might disagree with me, etc. But that's what video evidence does for you. And unfortunately, I think Councillor Thaler will have to wear a body cam, because he cannot be anywhere without someone misconstruing. I mean, there's Sandra Drayton, and I've mentioned the name because it's on. I don't know Sandra Drayton, but I've eaten, and I'll tell you what, they're actually one of the best burgers and milkshakes I've had at Bertie's Cafe, and Sandra thing, but obviously she doesn't like Andrew, and I'm sure, hopefully she won't take a dislike for me just because of my friendship with Andrew. But there's an issue there, and then his charges were dropped. All sensationalism, he was badgered around bashing women, etc. And his charge has been dropped, and she's been charged. But there's nothing said about it. Don't even know when she's going to court. So there's obviously an issue. He doesn't do him any favours. He doesn't do himself any favours, I'll tell him, and Andrew knows I'll say that. The way, he definitely needs a publicist.
Now, I want to go back to Lynda Summers.
Yeah.
Do you believe she was aiding and abetting Mr. Pollard in stealing your phone?
Oh, she was certainly on his side. I don't know what she was doing. I don't think she was doing much to contribute or to aid. As I said, she popped out. She had a big smile. She lifted up her arms and said, "I'm here, ready. I'm ready." And it just had a similarity to some Jack in the Box. It just pops out and, okay, what do I do now?
I want to read you a quote from the newspaper article regarding Lynda Summers. She says, "A staff member pulled the three men apart, and she stepped in to keep things calm."
3 men apart? No, well, okay. Straight away, as soon as I got my phone, I walked away. I'm done. That's all I wanted. I got my phone. No one pulled me apart. No one touched me. Actually, no one had hands on me. I grabbed my phone after some thing and then pulled my phone, and then I rang the police. So that little bit is about. But then David Rawlings apparently was seen jumping in between Mick Pollard and Andrew Thaler and stopping that. Well, Andrew probably didn't know that I had my phone at the time, maybe, because he's in front. As I said, he was trying to prevent Andrew getting the phone by having the phone behind his back. I now had the phone to me because I came up behind, because I was hobbling behind Mick Pollard, and I had my phone, but he still had a good grip on it, but he had it behind his back, and he was using his left arm behind to fend off Andrew. And then, yes, there was a lot of heated. There was people involved that probably didn't need to be involved.
Lynda Summers goes on and says she stepped in to keep things calm.
I'm sorry, but Lynda would contribute. I'm sorry, I don't think she to keep anything calm. No, I don't. I don't think she had any significant impact
on
whatsoever. But she would have liked to sure that she'd be involved. And obviously, if you can got the reporter on speed dial, you can tell him anything you want.
She goes on to say, "My instincts kicked in. That diffused the situation in the moment."
Oh God, no. As I said, it was basically over once I got my phone back. No, sorry. As I said, I had a bit of tunnel vision. All I was worried about was my phone. If it was going to break, trying to get it out of Mick Pollard's, who refused to part with it. I had to peel back his fingers to get my phone back. I was so concerned it was going to get broken. I had tunnel vision. There was a lot of things happening on the other side of Mick Pollard, but my focus was on the protection. People know your life's in your phone, all your accounts, your banking, everything. I wanted my phone back. I can't afford to buy another one.
Lynda Summers goes on to say, but a short time later, Thaler returned and pushed Mr. Pollard in the chest. It was completely unprovoked.
I did see, I believe it was Mick Pollard sitting in the seats. Like I sort of saw something like he landed. There was a row of seats there. I do not know what happened. What happened as a result of wrestling. I mean, you can't. It's a little bit hard to try and apprehend someone and then say someone's pushed unprovoked. How do you say it's unprovoked? He was out the door with my phone. So if he didn't take my phone, anything past that would not have occurred.
Do you recall Lynda Summers from the Professor Spitty episode?
Lynda Summers, yes, that it was her. She's on camera, and it's her husband that whacked Andrew Thaler, and no charges were laid. And he's an ex-copper, maybe she's an ex-copper. I know, yes, and there's a distinctive nothing happened. So there's definitely an issue there. There's definitely a bias. Completely. I've asked. I'm writing to. I'd like a secret shopper to come from local government, not be announced to, and not be noted, be able to be recognised by any member of the public, staff member or councillor, not teed up by the mayor. I would like someone from local government to just come and sit in before making any judgments on what's going on with council, is to sit in the public forum and just sit there quietly and see how councils run, the bias, the disruptions that are allowed to escalate because they're not nipped in the bud straight away, like, Vicky Pollard, making snide remarks, out. Sorry, warning, out. Let's have some enforcement, strict down guidelines. I know it's pedantic, but I think they need to really take some control. And with the seating arrangement, don't constantly put. They did it last time too, even in Bombala. I went to a Bombala meeting. They had Councillor Thaler sitting directly in front of the public forum. And he's got his detractors there where they can lean forward and whisper under their breath, etc. Come on, guys, common sense. You want to, keep the peace. Put him on the seating arrangements. I'm putting him on the other side of the room.
Do you think it's suspicious that the room with the most cameras had none running at the crucial moment?
Oh no, I don't think that, because generally the cameras. Well, I can only go when you watch your council thing from home. Is that basically it stops straight away at the end of the meeting. So I wouldn't be surprised if the person, once the gavel is pushed down, there will be no camera footage of anything after the meeting. So that would be, no, I mean, conspiracy theory, sorry. No, I think that's probably a general thing. Maybe it could be something to implement, that the cameras remain on whilst people are in the room would be a better way to go, I would say.
Is it suspicious that the normal security guard, who is normally outside the room during this confrontation, was not present?
No, I don't know. I mean, he must be bored shitless, because that's the only thing that's ever happened. And now we know that the security guard should not be titled as the security guard for Andrew Thaler, it should be the security guard for everybody to make sure there's order. But no, he wasn't there. Who knows what he was doing? I don't know, but I've seen him outside. Nothing has eventuated until now, but I don't know why the mayor wasn't there. I don't know, but there were some contentious resolutions. And the thing about contentious resolutions, if you were playing more of a chess player rather than a checkers player or drafts, is that if you don't want to participate, you can just leave, and whoever acts in the mayor gets the extra vote. So it's not good. So I don't know why he wasn't there. He may have legitimate means. I know there's accusations. Andrews said that he maybe chose not to be there. Above my pay grade. I was there just to watch a meeting.
And finally, do you think that this event was premeditated?
Premeditated? Oh, I don't know. The minds of between the Pollards, if they could do that, I don't know. Obviously, there is tension there, etc. However, it could have been preventable by SMRC by just re-looking at the seating arrangements and stop continually having a controversial figure like Councillor Thaler sitting in close proximity with his back. I must be very uncomfortable to have your back metres away from people that really hate you. And then you try and give a presentation and you're constantly having remarks from the forum interrupting. You've got councillors, Labor councillors on the other side rolling their eyes and carry on and also making remarks. There's points of order that go on. Points of order from councillor, points of order. But under the Code of Meeting Practice, you are supposed to quote what is the point of order and what's the clause. Have you read? You just can't say point of order, stop a councillor's flow of, when you get in the gist of your 5-minute speech and you hate to be interrupted, etc. You can't, there's measures that can be taken to prevent all of that. So as premeditated, I don't know. I'm not going to get into that.
Would there be anything else you'd like to add?
No, basically just to reaffirm, I love to see a secret shopper from local government come down and sit in the room and just observe before making decisions, before painting Councillor Thaler as the boogeyman entirely all the time. There are other issues, problems that constantly occur. Control of the room can be needs to be improved. As I said, if you try and look at this from home, you can't. Even the IT there, to try and look at what they're doing with the resolutions, the paperwork, because they amend things, you need to keep up to date. That's why I like to sit at the front, because the room layout, you're looking through a poll unless you're right at the front. But there's obviously people that are not there to look at the screen and to follow what's going on. There are people there just to create a problem that should be all nipped in the bud. It needs to be ruled with an iron hand straight away, but it's not. Andrew Thaler was not the catalyst here, and the whole thing could be preventable. So they want to do this seating arrangement, but what you should be looking at, if the transparency of the videos, that during the meeting where Andrew, I haven't watched the video, I've been told I watched it and Andrew's turning around, so he's being interrupted. I mean, I heard, there's comments, you're Trumpy and all this from this crowd. I heard that myself. And so if you watch it and when he talks and he looks behind himself, he's been interrupted, he's had some comment. He's asked them to be removed, but no one has taken action, etc. I think we can really, council needs to create a safe workspace. Obviously, our security guard, which I was hoping to get rid of, should be maybe in the room now and observe, but there's definitely a bias. And I understand Andrew's not popular with people in the room, but whether you're the chairperson, regardless of how you think of the councillor, you're supposed to be on their motion, but basically any motion he makes gets blocked just because he's the author. That's what it appears to me. And as I said, there was a bias police. How was Andrew Thaler involved? I mean, there's a bias, or he doesn't. I said he needs a publicist. He doesn't do himself any favours. He knows that. I've told him, so I'm sure he won't be offended by me saying that. But that's it. It's not Andrew Thaler is not the catalyst of that incident. The catalyst was SMRC and the decision makers there on seating arrangements, set up of the room, etc., etc.
Mick, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for coming in at such a short notice. I'm sure myself and the community are very grateful for your insights into this matter.
No, as I said, I came here under sufferance. It's only because the age article, I'd rather let the police sort it out. I didn't really want to be involved in this, but apparently I am. But I think video evidence, I wasn't there to video just for the sake of videoing. I saw an incident, a confrontation. I know that Andrew quite often gets the shitty end of the stick. People say it was all Andrew's fault. I thought I'd take an accurate record of what went on, but who foresee that it would blow up with my record getting taken away and stolen, and then it just went downhill from there. But as I said, the seating arrangement, the separation between the pollards, not letting the security guard being present at the time, there was a whole heap of things, measures that could have been taken. I'm sure council, the CEO, Stephen Dunshay, will hopefully look at this. But then people have got to, this is not just Andrew Thaler, serial, but as the age, that's just sensationalism, dribbling blood. I mean, come on. I mean, really? He had a small scratch. That's it.
Monaro, call them out, demand the truth, dispel the doubt, for governance must serve the land, not crush its people with sleight of hand. The worst of crisis left to fester, no justice found, no old redress here. Shame on the gang who turned their backs. Shame on this council, mired in cracks. So rise, dear Monaro, call them out, demand the truth, dispel the doubt. For governance must serve the land, not crush its people with sleight of hand.